Hi, this is Jim Cranston from 7 Every Minute, from 7everyminute.com, the podcast and website about reimagining your life. Thanks for joining me tonight to talk about prioritizing your 80%. So let's get started. If you like what you hear tonight, please leave a like and tell your friends and send me a message. So first off, what do I mean by your 80%? You've probably heard of the 80-20 rule, which is really the Pareto principle, described by Vinfredo Pareto, an Italian polymath. He was a civil engineer, sociologist, and economist. He's one of those people, political scientist, philosopher, and this was based on his economics work. He lived from 1848 to 1923. And fundamentally, the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule, kind of posits that the 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. And it holds surprisingly well over a wide range of conditions and situations. So in our individual lives, when you really think about it, and no matter how you want to measure it, you'll generally notice that same sort of ratio of high productivity or results versus the total time expended. That roughly 20% of your time you do amazing things, and the other 80% of the time it's stuff that needs to be done, but things just don't move as quickly. Some of it's how our minds work, of course, what we realize and I always talk about watching a house go up. It seems like they work and work and work, and there's nothing there, and all of a sudden, boom, there's the whole shell of the house. Wow, they're going to move in really soon. But then they keep working the whole interior to build out and the roof to put on and all the interior to finish out and the appliances and everything else. And we like to think of life as going along in a nice linear fashion, but it usually doesn't. So our mind plays tricks on us. But in reality, if you look at what we really spend time on, there is this kind of breakdown between productive time and all the rest of the time. So part of it has to do, I think, with a lot of times we try and say we're going to do everything. And it has to, most of us have a tendency to try to do the whole job from beginning to end rather than really trying to do what they're really good at. I mean, I know I'm certainly guilty of this. I could call somebody to go do the lawn, say, but I'd rather do the lawn, even though they show up with this great big mower and a team of two other people, and they're in and out in 25 minutes or something, and I'm working on it for the whole morning. But there's a natural tendency for a lot of us, I think, to want to say that we just did everything. And so it's good in one way because you learn lots of skills and you get better at a lot of different things, but you also don't make the best use of your time. So the reality of the situation, I mean, sometimes it's also, you have to do things because just the reality of the situation is you have no other alternatives. I mean, part of it is if you're a parent, say, you can't just hand off cooking and cleaning to somebody else and only spend quality time with the kids if you can't afford domestic help or a live-in nanny or something like that. And that's where the hint is, however, because life is always full of hints if we pay attention, because there's parts of the things that you do with your family that you're really good at and that you enjoy and all your energy comes out at. And when you do those things, time passes very quickly for you and for everyone else involved. And there's things that you really don't feel like you are very good at, but feel like you have to do. Maybe you don't really like to cook, but you try your best, you give it your best shot, and still, you're not really. It's not the thing that you really enjoy doing. So also, I want to preface this by saying that this is not critical in any way of any specific person in any particular individual situation or anything. This is just an example. But I'll also say that I'm honored to know a couple of people who've been in exactly this situation and found ways to kind of rebalance their lives to play to their strengths. And it's completely changed their lives. So at any particular point, you may not be able to get there, but there's always hope that you can kind of work through a situation to find something where you can spend more time doing what you're really good at. The reasons for this whole idea came to mind is based upon two events. I've been kind of mildly following these two gentlemen, Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy, and they have a book and a website all about how when you want to improve, no matter what it is, that going 10 times as big or 10 times better is easier than improving only 2 times. And so it's an interesting concept. We'll talk more about it in a second. But the other reason was this personal situation I was in recently, where I ended up investing a large amount of personal time doing essentially menial labor to help someone else. And there was a pretty good personal cost to it because I wasn't working on projects to move my own life forward, doing something that probably anybody could do. I mean, there were a few things probably that I did better than other people might have, but the bulk of it could have easily been handled by any competent adult capable of following basic directions. So it wasn't really an optimal use of my time. In both these examples, both the overworked parent and the underutilized weekend, there's this hidden concept of 10x is easier than 2x. To be clear, I'm not saying that it's easier to improve by 10x on something. It isn't easy, but getting to 2x isn't easier either, especially if you're trading money for time, such as an employee or an individual contractor or labor, or many other jobs where you're just paid, less for your specific skills and more for just showing up. So if you're looking at your life, say, well, I really want to improve and I want to double my salary. I suggest that it may be that if you can rearrange your life a little bit, that doubling your salary or doubling your time with your kids or just doing 2x or whatever, you might be able to do a lot more than that if you can leverage the things that you're really good at. So let's get back to making the most of that 80% of our lives where we're just doing stuff that doesn't leverage our skills or interests. Remember, as I said many times, this isn't about maximizing your money necessarily. It's about maximizing your life in whatever form it is that leads you towards your vision. If sitting around shelling peas and husking corn brings you inner peace and calmness, then that's what you should be doing with your time, even if you could instead be saying consulting as a physicist or a stock trader. Maybe that's your day job. Maybe when you get home, the only thing you want to do is just sit and smell the vegetables as you're working on them, and it brings you peace and calmness. Peace in your life is a really essential component of living, and that has a high personal value too. So again, this isn't about maximizing money. It's about maximizing the overall happiness and joy and contentment in your own life. So that leaves us with all these things that we really don't want to do or aren't interested in doing. And they don't particularly bring us pleasure, but they really can't be ignored. So it may be things that we need or want to do in pursuit of our goals, even in pursuit of our vision, but really we're not either good at them or interested in doing them. We all have things like that we want to be a good musician, but we really aren't very good at promoting ourselves. Well, that's okay. You don't have to be good at everything. And that gets back to what we started off saying, that as people, we tend to want to do everything, to bring a project from start to completion. And there's areas about it that we know we just dread doing, but we'll just trudge through them because that's what you got to do to get there. Well, kind of this whole 80-20, 10x, 2x rule is really saying something different. It's saying that focus on the 20% where you're really good and do as much of that as you can. And on the things in the 80% that you're really not good at doing, not interested in doing, don't bring you pleasure, see what you can do to get those off of your plate and onto somebody who is good at doing them. It's what managing your 80% is all about. We all have things that we're good at doing. It's always fun to watch a real master at some task, either physical or mental, do something. I'll look at that person and be amazed that they can effortlessly, right? Can't say that word tonight, effortlessly do something in seconds better than I could spend, if I spend half the morning trying to do it. I see people do this in woodworking. I see them do it in a lot of art and craft things. It's always fun to watch a real expert in the field do something. And we each have talents that others are amazed at. You may say, I don't really do anything good, but you're doing something that you really enjoy, whatever it is. Maybe it's whistling even or something. And you look up and somebody kind of, wow, how can you whistle like that? It's kind of, I don't know. It makes me happy. I love to do it. And we all have things that others are amazed at. So the goal then is to figure out what they are and then try to arrange our lives such that we can focus on those aspects and get help from other people in the things that we aren't as good at or aren't interested in doing. This can happen in many ways. There's good old-fashioned informal barter. If you help me clean the house, I'll do your nails or help organize your bills or whatever. Then there's the more formal route of starting a business, either a local business or virtual or online business. This is exactly what so many of the online courses are doing. Except usually instead of barter, money is used, but it's often just one person with a skill trading their expertise for some money, which you got by using your expertise. But it's important to realize that you don't have to go start a business to make use of this. If you love to teach kids to play piano and your friend is a neat freak with 3 kids who needs music lessons, there's an opportunity for both of you to improve each other's lives. We'll talk more about this, but I hope you're starting to see that the concept of focusing on your strengths and getting someone else to cover your weak areas can be used and useful in many ways. This used to happen naturally when people spent more time visiting with neighbors, people just naturally chip in and help with a problem, and they'd get paid back, with fresh cookies or a surprise dinner or whatever. They'd come over and help you with something you were having trouble with. But society has changed, and we kind of forgotten that we all have strengths and weaknesses, but by working together in many different ways, we can start to really make all our lives better without having to work 100 hours a week or be an Instagram star. There's we in our modern society, we've kind of gotten into this very formalized point of view. Everything has to be done in a formal way. It's we have to put up a sign and advertise we have these skills, whatever. It's still fair just to go out, talk to your neighbors, and just chat with them and keep your ears open. If they say, yeah, no, I got about a pile of things I got to do in sewing, and I'm very not good at sewing, and you love to sew, but you hate to cook, and you have something in the up, and you need a pie, this other person is an awesome baker, say, hey, I'll fix 3 of those dresses if you want to make me a pie. And it's a win-win. Think about it. There's lots of opportunities all around us. Don't get focused on that it has to be online. Don't get focused on that everything has to be formal. So that's it for the week. We'll revisit this whole topic again, and we'll share some more tips and tricks. Your homework, optional of course, is to look for your strengths and think about how you could use them to help someone else. Bonus points if you can also come up with some people to help out with things that you really don't feel like doing, and see if it might work out that you can really help each other by kind of working as a team. So that's it for the evening. Of course, ukr7.com. Ukraine right now is in an even more tenuous situation. The dam was bombed, and all sorts of things are going on. Please remember people in Ukraine or anyone in need. There's plenty of disasters in the world, plenty enough to go around. Think about helping someone else if you can. At ukr7.com, of course, we have a link to World Central Kitchen and wck.org. They help people throughout the world. So if for whatever reason you're not interested in helping the Ukraine people right now, go to wck.org. There's lots of places in the world can always use some assistance, and I would encourage you to do something, because as always, and we spoke about this a lot, the best way to help yourself and care for yourself is to care for others. It takes the focus off of you and your problems, and you realize all the ways in which you can help other people. It's just a win-win for everybody. So if you can and you're able, please check it out and do something to help someone. So as always, thank you for stopping by. If you found something interesting or useful, please pass it along, and please hit that like button. If not, please drop me a comment as to what you'd like to hear. Have a great week. Remember to live the life that you dreamed of, because that's the path to true contentment. Love and encouragement to everyone, and see you next week on 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com. Thank you.